Hey guys, welcome back. I am Jamila Ballett. I got a good video for y'all today. I hate to use the word good. It's really not a good video at all, but it's very interesting, very thought-provoking. I'm going to spare y'all the long introduction because I hate long introductions. I don't think they're necessary. I know y'all can read, so you already read the title and the caption. Let's go ahead and get into this video. Welcome back. If you have not subscribed, by the way, please subscribe. You're not going to want to miss any new videos when I upload, and hit the notification bell. Okay, let's get into the video.
A jury in Georgia this afternoon. She's accused of murdering her live-in boyfriend, DeMonte Smith. Johnson claims she shot him in self-defense. Key evidence in this case is the police body camera video taken moments before the shooting, when Johnson, who called police, talks about potentially shooting Smith in self-defense.
What are you here? I told y'all do it. I still seem like she said I was do it.
The state's investigator there hears, "I told you I would do it." Ted, I was sitting next to our photojournalist who was inside of the courtroom, Peter Noel. He heard the word "he." It was like we were all holding our breath inside of the courtroom, not wanting to add to the strain of what this must be like for this little girl. When she came into the courtroom, the prosecutor led her in, and you could see in her eyes she just didn't want to be there. She was very nervous. She walked very slowly up to the witness stand. This was difficult for Quaneesha as well. We saw her walking into the courthouse this morning. She was pretty late showing up. Not sure if that was because of having to make sure she got there with her children, and that her children were able to be there, and this little girl taking the stand today. But I noticed the prosecutor putting a Kleenex next to her. Not sure if she was going on.
This family's been here supporting you every day.
Yes, a lot of them came from Philadelphia. It's sad. I mean, they say people show no remorse. I'm very remorseful. Just because I don't sit there and tear, cry, and I can't cry on cue. I'm mentally disturbed. Disturbed and whole, you know. I can't express it enough. Like, I love DeMonte to death, and I still to this day. And I will always.
Okay guys, so if you have not already checked me out on TikTok, I am at Most Beautiful Inc. on TikTok. You're going to want to check out those videos all about narcissism. All about narcissism. Trust me, you want to check out my videos on narcissism. They are very insightful, a lot of wisdom, a lot of life experience. I share a whole lot of my testimony in those videos. So let's go ahead and talk about this case. The interesting thing about this case is that we see these types of stories all too often nowadays. We see these types of stories a lot. It feels like it's every day. And even if they're not making the news every single day, they are absolutely happening every single day. All you got to do is look up the statistics, do a little research. There are literally people dying at the hands of their so-called loved ones, so-called partners, whatever you want to call them, baby mamas running over baby daddies shooting, killing the women, the kids too, sadly. And so, yeah, these are very extreme cases, but again, they are actually happening every single day, even when they're not making the news. So I really want to talk about toxic relationships, okay? Because I think that is the lesson here. We need to be more conscious, mindful of how we protect ourselves, protect our lives, our children, our loved ones. When we connect with somebody and call ourselves wanting to be in a relationship, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because even with the children who are being let's just say violated, for the sake of not violating community guidelines on YouTube. But those statistics are alarming as well. Okay. And so a lot of times the worst things are happening at the hands of people that we are trusting in our homes, people that we are inviting into our lives, and literally we are keeping these people in our lives, sleeping with the people who are doing the absolute most harm. So again, I share a lot about my testimony on TikTok, okay? I've shared a lot everywhere, at speaking engagements in New Jersey. I've shared my testimony a lot, a lot. Let me make a long story real short, okay? I have some experience in the area of trying to file restraining orders, of having called the police, of having being physically attacked, strangled, all of that, punched in the face. Sadly, I hate to say it, but again, but I always say it was my past life, because it's not my life. God is good. God is so good. And so this is why I have always coached women, and I've always been all about empowering women. Not that I don't care about these things happening to men, because it's horrible. It's devastating. It is traumatic, whether it happens to the man in the relationship or the woman or both. It always affects the kids when the kids are involved. But as my sister, because you are my sisters and I also am a woman, obviously, I've chosen to really give my time and attention to women who need to be heard and understood. And a lot of times are looking for a way out and don't really even believe that they can get out. So that's exactly what I did. Back in 2014, back in 2010, I decided I had had enough of after having been married for going on 11 years and in that so-called relationship for a total of about 16 years. I raised four children. 3 children came out of that marriage, but 4 of my children, okay, that I brought into this world. 3 of mine and his together. And I hate even saying that. I'm sorry. When I say it was traumatic, it was beyond traumatic. I've come such a long, long way. So let me just backtrack a little bit. I left in 2010, right? And I was still living in Florida. We were living separately. I was living in Florida still for another year, okay? And then I finally picked up and left, went into a shelter. From that shelter with my kids, moved on to another shelter and then to another shelter before I finally got into my own apartment, okay? Public assistance and all of that before I actually got on my own 2 feet. And I'm leaving out a whole lot, trust me, okay? So, and mind you, I left Florida, went to New Jersey, okay? So I know all too well about toxicity in a relationship, in a marriage, having to raise children with, in a bad relationship, in a very tumultuous relationship. That was the hardest period in my life. I'm quite sure I will never face another period that hard, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, in every way possible. I had no stability whatsoever and literally only had, I was in survival mode, just survival mode, but in chaos all the time, and still somehow by the grace of God managed to do a good job as a mother. Like I said, it's by the grace of God. That situation I wouldn't wish on anybody. It is hard in so many ways. And so just like myself, a lot of people decide it's easier to try to check out. Again, I said it is by the grace of God that I'm here. And it's 100,000% true, and then some. When I tell you is the grace of God, those situations can leave you feeling so hopeless, so stressed out, that you really just don't even want to be here. So I remember thinking, and mind you, let's fast forward a few years to 2014 when I met my now husband, my first husband. Yes, I was married before on paper, but this is my first husband, my first relationship, my first real partnership, first time I really have a husband and a marriage, okay? Because a paper doesn't make a marriage. Two people committed to each other and committed to being selfless and honoring and respecting each other and upholding their values, that's what makes a marriage. So in 2014, when my husband and I got married, we got engaged in 2014. We got married in 2015. So I can recall all throughout our relationship, even once I moved on and got married, he was constantly trying to disrupt my life in every way imaginable. So I had a lot of chaos and turmoil and craziness in my life, a lot of hardship. Oh my God, insurmountable stress and just being drained nonstop before I left. And then once I left, it's like he turned it up, if that's even possible, because clearly, listen, if you've been alive more than a minute on this earth, it's obvious. Moving on for a lot of people, when someone that they wanted moves on, I want to say it drives them crazy, but I believe these people were already not well mentally, because there are people who move on and do very well and they're just fine. And they don't necessarily resort to all the craziness that was hurled my way, that I had to endure literally for decades. What is my point? My point is, I don't know what happened between this young woman and the father of her children. I don't know what led up to her shooting him and him no longer being on this earth. I don't know. Only the two of them know, and God knows, because no matter how many details they bring up in a courtroom, no matter how they dissect the relationship and the so-called facts and evidence, we don't know everything that took place between these two people. Only they do, and God. So, but once I got remarried in 2015, or should I say just married, not again, on paper, technically by law, remarried, my first marriage. I'm married to my husband still now to this day, thank God. Okay, so I remember always saying to him, we've been together about 8 years now, married, by the way, and 10 years altogether, almost 10 years since we met. And so I've said to him many times over the years, I can see how people lose it. I can see how people get to the point where they just break. Because when I say he tried to do everything he could to disrupt my life, everything from baseless court motions that were filed, one after another was ongoing. At one point, my attorney said, I don't even know what he wants. Like, there's no issue. There's no problem. Because finally I did get an attorney. Late late in this journey, I got an attorney. And the attorney was like, there's no point in going to court. What does he want? And I was like, bingo. It's never a reason. He would just make up stuff. He would lie. He had called DIFUS. He had manipulated my children, people in my family, and of course his family as well, because I'm sure it was a whole lot easier to manipulate his own family since they were already on his side. You know, people believe what they want to believe because of whatever's going on inside of them, okay? And that's really the bottom line when people are manipulated. It's not always the case with children, though, okay? Children are just easier to manipulate and to brainwash. But anyway, I had said to my husband many times, I see how people lose it. I see how people get to the point where they just cannot do anymore and they go and do something crazy like grab a weapon. I mean, nowadays we got people using vehicles, using their cars as a weapon. And, you know, we have this thing in narcissism. Again, check out my TikToks. But we have this thing in narcissism that is, or toxic relationships. They're the same. A lot of the same issues, a lot of the same symptomatic behavior. It's called gaslighting. So technically it's where you use basically people in your life and people that know the two of you or one of you against your partner or ex-partner to abuse them, and to cause more emotional abuse and more devastation and more division in the family, and more, it furthers the isolation of the person who is being abused. And so that leads to depression, And depression leads to other things. For some reason, though, the courts do not understand abuse, and they don't care to understand abuse. So I had said to my husband many times, I see how people just lose it, because it was nonstop. It was nonstop. Every time my son had visitation, I bent over backwards to cover my ass, to cover my behind, to make sure I never violated any court order. And it didn't matter. He would just lie. He would just make stuff up. Every time I had to deal with him, he gave me an extremely hard time. And I personally believe that he was doing his best to not only try to punish me for leaving him, but to also cause enough problems in my life that my husband would give up, throw up his hands, and leave me. He underestimated him. So here's what I want to say. Nobody can really give anyone all the red flags of what causes of what toxic behavior looks like, okay? Because a lot of times people ask, how can you tell if a person's going to be like that? Well, a lot of times you cannot. And sometimes you can see toxic behavior in a person because we are human beings living on this earth, quite frankly, who came from families of varying degrees of dysfunction. And that person may not necessarily turn out to be a violent, evil person, okay? So I'm not even going to try to get into the red flags right now. Please subscribe, and I will have more upcoming videos on everything related to relationships, and abusive relationships and toxic relationships. But I want to say this. You really have to just take your time. I hope that young women, that people just in general, young women, older women, men also, people for the most part in this world right now are not doing the best mentally, okay? And so when you add emotional strain to their lives, if you add rejection, a lot of people are just snapping and hurting whomever they feel deserves to get hurt. Or they are snapping and taking things into their own hands, feeling like, well, the law is not going to protect me. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to go for a restraining order and go before the court and before the judge. And when he had his opportunity to defend himself, of course, his story was, she's crazy. She's crazy. She's lying. And for some reason, the judge just believed him. For some reason, the judge didn't think that an abusive man would lie and say, no, I'm not. Honestly, listen, this is a lot. It's a lot. I know it's a whole lot, but this is why, and I feel like the only reason I really want to talk about this is because I'm hoping somebody sees this case, or that you've at least seen cases like this, and it will make you really pause, slow down, take your time, get to know somebody, and really take your time, because I am still dealing with the effects. I met this person back in 1994. I am remarried. I am happily remarried. My life has been beautiful since I've left. It was challenging at first to turn everything around, but it has still been an amazing journey since I left. God has been so faithful. And yet I am still dealing with all the consequences because I had children with this person. Okay, so even though they are 25 years old, one is almost 30 years old, one is 15 years old, the twins are almost 25 years old, I am still dealing with the consequences. And can I tell you, I know it is only God that has kept my mind this long. I know. It is so easy to sink into depression. It is so easy to sink into a depression that would have you popping pills, smoking something, or trying to end your existence here on this earth is so easy. So again, my only hope is that somebody somewhere thinks about what happened to this young woman who now has a serious criminal felony record for the remainder of her life and still has to raise the kids that she had with this man. And someday they're going to want to know, and they're going to ask questions, or they will find out. And God only knows how they will take that and how that will affect their relationship with their mother. Okay? So the devastation lingers. It lingers. The harm, it lingers. You know, we don't know. We don't know when we first meet somebody what they are capable of. We know the representation of themselves that they are usually intentionally presenting. That's what we know. So this could happen, because worse could happen. He happened to be the one who was buried. I have, again, seen many situations, as I'm sure you all have, where it was the children. It was the children who were just caught in between, caught in the middle, innocent. So, you know, I think the most important thing is have such a tight relationship with yourself and with God that you never, ever just end up with the wrong person because you just wanted somebody so bad. That's the only cure. That is the only cure for just connecting with somebody too quick, is to have such a tight relationship with yourself and with God that you don't have this longing that you will allow anybody to fill. That's the lesson in all of this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It never starts off like this. Abuse doesn't start off with somebody hurting you, saying, I'm going to beat you, as he was saying to this young lady in this case. It doesn't start off that way. And I also once upon a time thought I could never, nobody would ever, I wish, not me. Those women are stupid. There are a lot of misconceptions about abuse. Again, please subscribe. I am definitely going to get into a detailed explanation about what it really is and just how misunderstood it is, the myths about abuse. Because I have a very rare insight, and again, testimony that just really has sharpened my insight. You guys, listen, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope you catch my next video. Again, please subscribe. I will have more, and hit the notification bell, and that way you're going to be notified every time I upload a new video. I love you guys all so much. I wish you the absolute best. I pray God keep you, and yeah, have a beautiful day. See you next time. Bye.